Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not to Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Harley Quinn. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I like that this episode was kind of set up to going after Mr. Freeze because, it's like they needed to get, Firefly's weapon so they could get through the ice. It kind of reminds me like a video game where it's like, oh, you need this particular item so you can advance through the story. It's interesting because like literal Batman games were kind of set up like that to a certain extent, but it's just interesting. But I like the fact that I think this is our first time seeing Mr. Freeze goons in this continuity, I think, and obviously like any other goons, they're bumbling idiots, kind of telling Harley and the crew exactly where they need to go to get Firefly's weapon, and obviously this makes them cross paths with Dr. Trap, which is interesting because it's saying it's being, traps, and I guess it kind of fits with any other Gotham villain that's kind of weird like that. But nevertheless, first time there, not too easy. I love that like his traps are overkill because it's all those spears. It's like one set of spears, another set of spears, and fire around going after Penguin's umbrella. There was also that giant, what was that? It was a coin. I was like, why are there so many giant coins? Because Batman's got the whole like giant penny thing in like the Batcave, right? Which is, I'm like, well, why are there so many giant coins? It is a penny, right? If I remember correctly. Cause I think wasn't that a thing in like the original animated series, or maybe I'm confusing it with some other animated Batman thing. Regardless. Well, since they're breaking into somewhere, they need an expert in this situation, and they call him Catwoman, which I think is interesting because I literally referenced the Gotham Sirens last episode, and it's like, oh, lo and behold, we're setting that up. Well, not necessarily setting this up, because Ivy and Catwoman have history, because it's like, yeah, like, Ivy doesn't want to work with her, because it's like, oh, the fact of the matter is she kind of screws you over and whatnot, and so I love that whole rant she went on about, like, yeah, because maybe she looks good in overalls, and you're thinking, hey, maybe I'll look good in overalls, and then you have a closet full of overalls because you don't look good in them. And Harley's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I like that we see this side of Ivy, because like this is a side we've never seen before, and like she kind of loses her composure like around, like she's like fangirling a bit, and just also because like for her it's like Catwoman is so aloof is what she was saying. I thought was so interesting. Like she literally shifted completely like a 180 when Catwoman was on. She's like, oh my god, yeah, oh, see what I mean? She orders for you. Oh my god, this was such a good idea for you. Oh, this is such a good Cobb salad and all that. It's like, holy crap, you've really... Oh, and even Harley was like, okay, we decide we don't want to work, because she was trying to back up Ivy, but Ivy's like, no, this is great. It's like she literally just stole the jacket off of you. Yeah, it's like, I know, right? And it looks so much better on her mind. That's crazy, because you've never seen Ivy like that. I guess it's because of the timing and stuff like that, because I like that this episode is kind of like Ivy feeling like, oh, she's kind of lost her way, because it's like, oh yeah, like when's the last time I actually went about doing something I kind of wanted to, like criminal wise, of like, oh, like kind of her borderline eco-terrorism thing that she kind of does. I guess the last thing would be like season 1 when she ended up getting captured. I think would probably be the last time she tried to do something like that. But I guess in that time frame, it's just been like, now what Harley's been up to and stuff like that, trying to help her do her thing. And I think Ivy feels like she kind of lost herself along the way. And I think it's actually really sweet that Kite Man was like, oh, I'm afraid of traps and space. But it's like, actually, I'm going in there, even though I'm super afraid of traps, I'm going to try and get this ring for Ivy and propose to her. I was like, oh, that's super sweet. Obviously, Harley kind of giving him shit, because she constantly gives him shit because she doesn't think. For one, she kept telling Ivy, like, he's not good for her. Like, he's not good enough for her. It's like, really? Like, shouldn't you just kind of weigh your options and stuff like that? Which is like, even Ivy was like, really? This coming from a person who was in a relationship with the Joker? Basically saying she doesn't have the best track record to really kind of judge Ivy's, relationship status and stuff like that. But the entire time, like, Ivy's with Catwoman, it's like, it's so sad, because it feels like she has to constantly defend herself, like her choices and stuff like that. It's like, oh, why? Because I guess, Catwoman's purely a solo act in this, which makes you wonder in this continuity, like, what's her relationship like with Batman, because they have their kind of back and forth and stuff like that. But I'm wondering, like, does that even kind of fit? Because it seems like she's a loner, because it basically seems like she screws over whoever she does. But to be fair, that's kind of Catwoman's thing. She's kind of in it for herself. So, but she kind of looks at Ivy about the whole, like, oh, it seems like you used to kind of be, kind of know what you wanted out of life, and now it seems like you don't. Plus, you're dating this doofus. You must be taking him for a ride or something. It's like, no, we're actually dating. She's like, really? Like, I just thought that was such an interesting thing. I also love that the entire time Dr. Trap is making little snide comments during like his traps and stuff like that. Like Ivy activated the floor trap, and then he's like, "Oh, must have had a heavy salad or something like that." I think that's what he said. I was like, "What the hell?" And then the fact is, Kite Man's activating all the traps. He trips over a pencil. He's like, "Oh, my first trap." And it's like, "No, you just tripped over a pencil." And the fact is, it's like, "Oh no, Net's a Kite's number one enemy. He went from a net to a spider web." It is interesting when you actually do pay attention to like the fact is that Deathstroke sword is there, so it's like little Easter eggs and stuff like that. There's that giant dinosaur. Isn't that giant dinosaur in the Batcave? That's what I'm thinking. Like, no, it's a giant penny, right? It's not like, because that wasn't a penny. That was I don't know, might have been a quarter or a dime. But I was like, is that stuff taken from the Batcave? I mean, maybe people found it and robbed it. Maybe, I don't know. But regardless, I tried to pay a little more attention to the background because I'm sure there's a lot of like DC Easter eggs like sprinkled in the background. There was like one like cape and suit that I'm like, that feels like that's something, and I'm not placing what it is. But regardless. But I also love the only reason why Harley was able to easily get past all the traps is because luckily Kite Man was there to basically activate all of them. And so they've got the flamethrower, and then, what was it, like a plasma like ray gun or whatever. The fact of the matter is, they've got it falling into another trap. Kite Man was about to propose, but then Catwoman had stolen a ring, and it's like, oh, that sucks. It's like, oh, this trouble you went through. Oh, well, she took it, she bounced. I even love there was that moment where like they walked by the arrowheads that Kite Man was talking about earlier in the episode. Regardless, and during all this, they're trying to escape and everything, and he's constantly trying to like propose to her and everything. But obviously for her, she's like, I don't know if that's what I want and everything, which you kind of feel so, you're like, oh, he went this so much. It's like, oh, come on. And part of me was like, oh, is this going to be the end of their relationship? Just because it feels like Harley, I mean, just like all this stuff kind of, I felt like it kind of got to Ivy's head. So maybe she wasn't going to be like down with like, maybe, you know, because she's still trying to she's trying to find out where she stands in the grand scheme of things. Like, you know, where she wants to be going forward, kind of. It's almost like her criminal career and what she wants out of life, you know, because obviously she's still in the middle of kind of figuring things out, you know. And they managed to get out and everything, but then I was like, oh, is things not going to work out in the long run? And I like that she's those Ace Chemical people, she's like dumping chemicals on them because they were dumping stuff. So she's kind of getting back into her bag of like, you know, how she does her criminal stuff, which in her mind wouldn't be criminal stuff because it's like, oh, I'm doing this for the planet and stuff like that. But still. And even Harley being like, honestly, I wasn't the biggest fan of Kite Man. Still wasn't, you know, even when you explained him being your boyfriend and everything. But to be fair, he went through a lot for you and everything. So part of me does kind of think, like, you know, and then Ivy's like, he kind of grows on you, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, he kind of does. And I was like, oh. And so, and that Harley dumping one of the barrels on one of the Ace Chemical dudes as well. I thought that was kind of interesting. Also interesting how that kind of, once again, Ace Chemical's always coming full circle like that, especially for Harley in that regard. So I wonder is that supposed to be like a silent FU just because it's like, well, the chemicals kind of made her who she is to a certain, I mean, she made her who she is, obviously, but still, there's a connection there. So me overthinking it too much, but we do see at the end that she's, going over to Kite Man's place and accepting his proposal on him. But part of me is like, oh, it's still kind of in the back of your mind, like, is it going to work out? I don't know. You would like it to, but you know, it's just like, I don't know what that kind of, what the future looks like for them going forward. At the same time, there's the whole Dr. Psycho situation where he screws up with the Riddler talking mad shit because it's like, oh, you can't lead your own crew and stuff like that. And obviously, Psycho having like, I guess he's self-conscious about that, so he's throwing like all those bottles and stuff, and because of that the Riddler was able to escape, and it's like, Harley's gonna kill me, she gave me one damn job to do, and the fact is I screwed up, they're spread out. I even love that bit that Sai was saying, like, oh, like when you're basically when you're, what was it, interrogating someone for information or something, and you fall in love with them. It's like, who here has fallen in love with the Riddler? And no one's raised their hand. He's like, oh, I guess, I thought that's how I hated, but oh no, that's not no one. But nevertheless, also love that Psycho ended up getting taken down by Psy, because I was like, he's like, oh, there's someone. It's like, I don't know if that's actually him or not. I was like, oh, I was like, that's going to end up being Psycho. Oh, yep, it is. And, well, luckily, I think it was probably just a trank, but I love that Riddler just returns at the end, because he's like, no, I actually like being here, because actually, for one, I get to mock you, and also I'm in like the best shape of my life, because obviously it's like an apocalyptic world out there, and the fact of the matter is I get entertainment by seeing you idiots bumble around. It's like, well, to be fair, these bumbling idiots took you down, but I guess you're like, it's not that big of a deal. They killed Penguin, not that big of a deal. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna watch you fail. So that's definitely gonna be interesting to have like someone just talking mad shit about you the entire time as he's powering your place and stuff like that. So that's all definitely going to be interesting to see where all that kind of goes going forward, especially with the whole Dr. Psycho thing. Because of this episode, makes me wonder, is he going to try and venture on his own and fail, or does this make him think like, oh, I can't handle things? I'm curious to see what that kind of means going forward for him. I'm interested to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it, good day, and goodbye.